Let's start with the prayers. Om Sahana Bhavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sah Vidyam Karavavahai Tejasvinavaditamastu ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. We are studying the 11th Anuvaka, 11th mantra, and this is from the 8th Anuvaka of chapter 2, Brahmanandavali. Now, the topic here in these mantras is how does the jiva, which is the aham, identified with this body, how does it liberate itself? What is the method by which a jiva who is in this body realizes that he is always liberated? What is that method? It's a very, very uh, deep science in Upanishads. All the Upanishads deal with this topic. Whether it is Mandukya Upanishad, Prashna Upanishad, you take any Upanishad, you will always find this portion of the Upanishad very, very abstract. You may not understand when you read it first time, because literally it doesn't appear to be possible. But at the same time, what Veda says is the truth. So we have to correct our interpretation of these mantras properly so that we also can realize how the Upanishad says that I am birthless. Suppose you accept the statement ajaha, jiva ajaha. That means ajam. It means it is birthless. Now, what aspect of mine can I consider to be birthless? Because body is born, body grows, body has modifications. 6 modifications as mentioned in the Tattva Bodha. But am I this body? Am I this mind? But or is there anything else which is there but I don't know about myself? So we can easily understand when the Upanishad says that I am not the body. Okay, fine, I am not the body because body is not permanent. And the Upanishad is revealing something which is permanent. Mind also, it comes, goes, it is having a lot of modifications, so it cannot be out. The knower of the mind exists because everybody says, I know my mind, I know my emotions. So there is something which is there in the mind which is making me aware about my anger, about my passion, about my fear, about my non-discrimination, about my delusions. There is a phenomena in this body which is a knower principle. That knower principle is Atma. And what is the nature of this Atma? The nature of this Atma is it is beyond the 5 koshas. Beyond the 5 koshas, how do I understand this? That means anything happening at the 5 levels of the personality does not affect Atma. Body is born, body dies, but it does not affect Atma. Mind is available in the waking state, not available in the sleep state. It doesn't affect Atma. Because in the presence of Atma only, the mind wakes up, mind goes to sleep, mind has a dream. So, this aspect of the jiva, what really happens to him when he gets this knowledge from the Upanishads, which says, Tattvamasi, you are that Brahman, the cause of this universe. What happens inside his mind? Now, that portion is what we are trying to understand in this section. It's a very, very deep section, and you have to be extremely attentive. Then only you will understand the significance of the teaching. And the benefit of understanding this correctly is the fruit of moksha. You realize that there is something which is there, which I didn't know. And having known that, I feel now I am fulfilled in life. Let's go back to the section where we left last week. And the slide where we left last week is this particular slide, where the word upasamkramanam is used in this section. The primary meaning of upasamkramanam means you are reaching or moving out to something. The secondary meaning is knowing something. You reach something, and that is what is called as upasamkramanam, or you know something, and that is what is called as upasamkramanam. In both these cases, there are different viewpoints. The Purva Pakshi, the opponent, takes the primary meaning, which is the reaching part. Shankaracharya takes the secondary meaning. That means he says that you cannot apply reaching in this particular context. Now we will try to analyze why he says Upasamkramanam is not reaching, but it is knowing yourself. Upanishad says that Annamaya Atmanam Upasamkramya. If you read the Taittriya Upanishad, the actual verses, 5 times it will say same sentence. First it will say Annamayam, then it will say Pranamayam, then it will say Manomayam, it will say Vijnanamayam, then it will say Anandamayam. That means for all the 5 koshas, they resolve into Atma. What Shankara says here is, when you say it resolves into Atma, it doesn't mean it is reaching Atma, but it is knowing Atma. That is what the difference between what Shankaracharya says and what the Purva Pakshi says. After Jnanam, the Jnani turns away from the external world and reaches Annamaya Atma. That means the content of Annamayam is Atma. The content of Pranamaya is Atma. Atma means consciousness principle. Without the consciousness principle, Annamaya is not there, Pranamaya is not there, Manomaya is not there, Vijnanamaya is not there, Anandamaya is also not. Without Atma. That is the way we should understand this mantra. So the Shankaracharya's explanation is, normally we don't see a physical movement of the world to the body or mind to the mind. We don't see these type of things normally. Like you can see a leech. Last time I gave this example of a leech, Chaluka. He says The Jnani says it is not like a leech which jumps from one leaf to another leaf, crosses over. That is physical movement. Or a bird flying outside in the sky, in the evening it comes and enters the nest. It is not like that. So Jnani does not move towards his body or away from his body. This is which Purva Pakshi is saying. But Purva Pakshi gives another example. He says, mind, for example, goes out and then comes back to Annamaya. Whenever that is what is called as Upasamkramati. Upasamkramati means resolution. Where does the mind? It goes outside and then it comes back. So there is an outward movement of mind and inward movement of mind. Here Shankaracharya says outward and inward movement of mind is only a thought. It is only a thought which he explains in this next paragraph. And he dwells on this topic of Upasamkramanya. In the end, what we will say Anandamaya reaches Anand Atma. That is the fifth kosha. So, Annamaya or any other koshas, they cannot reach because there is no physical movement in the case of a merger of a jnani. So, the only thing which is possible is that this traveler, this jiva, is distinctly different from the five koshas. Very, very important point Shankaracharya brings out in this commentary. If you see somewhere in the middle, he says that distinct from all of them is the so-called traveler. This traveler means that jiva who is in this body, through Brahma Jnanam, he merges with this Paramatma. That is the Shankaracharya's view of moksha. For example, we all think that we are in this body, but through the knowledge of the Upanishad, we drop the five koshas. When we drop the five koshas in our mind, what happens? Automatically, we are left with something which is common between this body and the universe. That is called as Atma or Brahman. If you refer it from the body standpoint, it is called as Atma. If you refer it from the universe standpoint, it is called as Brahman. Very beautiful commentary of Shankaracharya in this. This portion of analysis of merger principle after the Mahavakyam, where we did the Mahavakyam last time, in just two verses before, in this section itself, there is a Mahavakyam. If you all recall, the essence behind the individual body, the essence behind the sun, Surya, is the same Atma. That is the Mahavakya. Now, that is what he's trying to explain in all these portions. There are many commentators of Shankaracharya's Bhashyam. One person who has written, a very famous person, is Anandagiri. There is another person called as Achyuta Tirtha Krishna. The name of his commentary is called Vanamala. Now, he writes a very, very beautiful commentary on Shankaracharya's Bhashyam. But they're all in Sanskrit. So when you study the Bhashyam, sometimes you find notes at the bottom. In Sanskrit, when you study the Bhashyam of the Gita Press, you will find some notes of all these authors like Vanamala author and so on. So there in one of the commentaries, it says that if the mind goes out, then the person will become mindless. So it is not that the mind goes out, it is only a thought which goes out. And then the thought comes inside. Dakshinamurti Stotram Nana Chit Ghatodharastitamaha Deepak Prabhavasuram. This mantra explains to us how the light of consciousness gets reflected in the mind first. It forms the Chid Abhasa, the reflection of the awareness principle in the mind. Through the mind, it goes through from the mind, it goes through the five holes, the five sense organs. The light of consciousness, when it goes through the sense organs, it can illumine the five sense objects outside. This particular mantra, number 4 of Dakshinamurti, everybody must understand very clearly. In order to understand the principle behind consciousness, this particular mantra is very useful. Because then what happens is when you drop that five koshas, automatically you'll realize that this is the light, this is the spiritual light. And when you realize that spiritual light, then you can compare, then you become aware of a thought. Till you realize this spiritual light, you cannot differentiate between mind and you. Many people have this difficulty. I don't know what is this mind. The Upanishad says, yes, mind is there in this body, but how do I experience that mind? And then Upanishad also says that there is a spiritual light in this body. How do I experience that? This particular mantra, number 4, very, very useful. I have taken Dakshinamurti Stotram videos are there in the class folder. You can study that. Very, very beautiful sections of the entire Dakshinamurti Stotram is supposed to be a PhD in Vedanta. That means all the important topics of Vedanta are there in these 9 verses of Dakshinamurti. So then, Manomaya reaching Manomaya means that the mind goes outside and comes back and joins the mind itself. Now, this means there is in Nyaya philosophy, there is Kartru Karma Virodhi Dosha. That means the action is different and the actor is different. Both cannot be the same. So, this is one of the doshas pointed out by Shankaracharya in the Purva Pakshi Matham, who says that there is a physical movement of the mind going outside and coming back. So Manomaya Atma Kosha is traveling in the first stage. It is not a physical travel, but see these points here are all negating the Purva Pakshi who talks about Upasamkramya as reaching or traveling by giving doshas to those arguments. So none of the Panchakoshas can really travel to Atma. What really travels is only a vritti, a thought. So in Vedanta, there is no physical travel, but the travel is only by knowing. Reflected consciousness comes to realize Atma as its source. See, in this body, there is a mind. The mind is illumined by a reflection of that consciousness. Normally, the jiva, either I take the physical body, which is a seen object. If the object is seen, according to Vedanta, drishya, whatever is drishyam is jadam. This is the principle of Vedanta. The knower of The Jada Vastu is Atma. Knower of body, mind, sense complex, the knower of the vrittis in the mind, the thoughts in the mind, is this Atma. So, through the knowledge of Atma, Upasankramanam as a principle is valid. Then it is beyond the five koshas, that is what is called as Paramatma. Jivatma makes a seeming travel through jnana. For example, when you utter aham, suppose you close your eyes and say aham. Aham in Sanskrit means I. Now, this I, the sound aham, the mind is involved because the mind is the one which perceives the sound. You're saying it and you're hearing it. The meaning of aham is silence. Like I say that chant om. The sound om is with the mind. You hear the sound om. How do you hear it? Only with the help of your mind. Suppose there was no mind, you would never hear the sound om. First of all, you can't even utter the word om if your mind is not. Like, for example, in sleep, you can't utter om in sleep. Nobody utters that. So, when you now this separation of the sound and the meaning, that means om and the silence, this separation is called as bhaga tyaga laksham. This is a technical term and we have to use it at the last end of our Vedantic study. This is where the central theme of Mahavakyam comes in. So at the end, when we say aham, and I don't mean the mind which is uttering the word aham or a thought which is saying aham, but it is the silence is what is the lakshya, is the final meaning of aham. So through jnanam, it is figuratively called as traveling. What is the process of knowing this aham brahmasmi? That is what Shankaracharya explains in the next commentary. Here he says, it is a question of knowledge. Aham brahmasmi is knowledge based. The knowledge pertains to what? The knowledge pertains to the real nature of Jeev. Now we have seen that ultimately when I leave this body, it is the Anandamaya kosha. It is the innermost kosha after all the four koshas. And when you have left that Anandamaya kosha, you reach Brahma Atma. That Brahma Atma is the creator of this whole universe. Right from Akasha onwards till the smallest leaf created by that pure consciousness, pure existence principle. And it is available only inside your mind for recognition purpose. That is what it says right in the beginning itself. The first mantra of this chapter says very clearly Brahman can be realized only in your intellect. And what understands that it is the mind or the intellect which understands its true nature. So, finally, we have to differentiate between Atma and Anatma. Ahamkara, Mamakara, and Atma. Claiming the enclosed consciousness as I am is one part of understanding Upasamkramanya. The second part is disclaiming the five koshas. See, what you have to do in our mind at the end of all the study of Taittiriya Upanishad is you have to close your eyes and say, I am not the five koshas, I am the Atma. This has to be done repeatedly by a seeker. Even in the day-to-day circumstances, when we have situations in life, you should learn to say these are all happening at the transactional level, but at the ultimate level, all these are resolved. That resolution ground is my final real nature. All of you know Nirvana Shatkam, which consists of 6 mantras, and each mantra has got two parts. One which says Manobuddhi Chittani Naha. That means I am not the mind, I am not the intellect, I am not uh, the sense organs. But who am I then? I am not the five elements also, which constitute all this Jada Prapancha. See, the body is made up of five elements. The world is also made up of what? Five elements. But beyond these five elements, there is a lower principle which knows these five elements. That is called as Chidananda Rupaha Shivoham Shivoham. So that consciousness principle, which is aware of this manifest world of Panchabhutas, also becomes aware of the unmanifest condition when you go to sleep. This is very deep. You pay attention here because we are talking about Atma. Atma doesn't mean only in the waking state. Atma is also there in the dream state. Atma is also there in the sleep state. So, how do I understand Atma in the sleep state? In the sleep state, the mind goes to sleep. When the mind sleeps, the whole world is in unmanifest condition, seed condition. But who is aware of that seed condition? Because unless you are aware of the seed condition, you will not come back and say, next day morning, I had a good sleep. There was some awareing principle, some Sakshi principle was there, which illumined the sleep state. And that Sakshi principle is there before the creation of the body. That is what Upanishad is revealing here. Upanishad's aim is not to reveal the five koshas. It is only the medium through which we realize the ultimate. See, how does the Upanishad say this? It says, Anyontara Atma Vijnanamaya. That means the content of Vijnanamaya kosha is this Atma, this Satchidananda Atma. The content of the mind is Satchidananda Atma. Because in the mind, there are two things. There is a thought of the object, which is Jada. There is an illumining principle, something which reveals the thought. That is what is called as Anyontara Atma. If you can understand that, then it's very easy. In the waking state itself, I can say, I am the illuminator of my thoughts. I am not the thoughts at all. I use the mind as an instrument for my transactions in the world. But I am different than the mind. In Taittiriya Upanishad itself, in the sixth Anuvaka, we had this mantra, So Kamayata Bahusyam Prajayeti Sato Satapo Tapte Tapyata. It is this consciousness principle desired to become many. As though it wants to become many, it entered into all the bodies, all the minds, and it created the entire universe. So, Finally, what Shankara wants to say is there is no movement involved for a jnani in Jivan Mukti or Videha Mukti. Jivan Mukti means I realize that I am always this eternal consciousness principle, and it is knowledge. There is no action involved, it is knowledge only. That means you're knowing something which always is existing in this universe. You are only discovering that. Suppose something is already there. What do? You only remove the cover. And then and that something is self-revealing. That is another beautiful thing about Atma. There is nothing in this universe which will reveal itself by itself. That is what is called as Atma. When we all go to sleep, Atma reveals itself. It remains as in its own nature. When you say that the pot space merges into the total space, what is involved? You break the pot, what happens to the space inside the pot? Was it at any time different than the space outside? Never. Similarly, the consciousness in this body is never separate from the consciousness which is outside. It is knowing this consciousness principle which makes the whole difference in this merger principle, in this merger. This is a revision portion. I have gone through this portion, so I won't repeat here. There is a beautiful verse in Bhagavad Gita in the 10th chapter. Swayam eva atmanam vetaha tvam purushottama. Arjuna says this, that only you can know yourself because you are the consciousness principle. I mean, the consciousness knows itself as consciousness. That is why it is saying that the merger is what? The reflected consciousness in this body mind complex, which is there today in our body and mind. It learns that it is never a part of the mind or the body, but it is one consciousness which is always existing, and it is Swayam Jyoti. You don't need to reveal that through anything else. For example, the baker creates all this dream body, dream universe. But in the dream world, the dreamer does not know it is, it is a dream. For a dreamer, the dream world is a waking state. Like the waker enters the dream world, and then what happens? Does he actually enter? No. Waker is always waker. By knowledge, we comes to know the dreamer once he wakes up. What is the knowledge once he wake up? I am the waker. Similarly, the Jivatma, the moment he realizes, I am something different than this waking principle. I am not the waker, which is the ahamkara, but I am the consciousness principle, which is different than the body and the mind. I am experiencing the Panchakoshas. That is the consciousness experiencing the five material vestures. So when you connect to the body, you are connected to the entire universe because the body is in the universe. Therefore, all types of relationships are possible with the universe. So this is what I was telling you. For a dreamer, you have to contemplate on this because then only you will get the meaning of this correctly. For a dreamer, dream is not a dream in dream. For a waker, waking is not a dream in waking, it is only waking. So for the particular avastha, the experiencer of that avastha feels it is always illumined world. The dreamer thinks it is the illumined world. Waker thinks it is the illumined world. The sleeper thinks that there is no world at all. So, what is the truth? We don't have to look at the three ahamkaras of the waker, dreamer, and sleeper. We have to cross over because ahamkara means mind is involved. So you have to, the mind has to learn to drop itself from the mind matter principle and own up the consciousness in the mind. See, this is, that's why I said this is a deep portion, but if you understand slowly, like how Shankaracharya is explaining to us, then it will be easy for us to also go in the direction of his thinking. Shankaracharya goes on and on in these mantras, and he says that purely for the sake of understanding or knowing and for defining the lakshyartha. See, what did we say in the beginning? Brahman is of the nature of Satyam Jnanam Anantam. To understand this Satyam Jnanam Anantam, the Upanishad goes through all the five koshas. It talks about the creation, it talks about the entry into the creation, and then it talks about merging out or coming out from the creation and joining the original consciousness, which is the reality. The broad vision of Upanishad is what? There is only one consciousness in this universe. Whatever is I'm experiencing, the entire world is a projection of that consciousness. Because that consciousness has got a Maya Shakti. So the world we experience is not different from that Brahman. When we see the world, we should be able to take our vision to that consciousness principle. Because it is that consciousness principle alone which is appearing as this whole world. This is the vision of the Upanishad. That pure consciousness never has any division in it. Why there is no division? Because all this entire division which we see, it is all kalpitam. Kalpitam means it is born out of the mind, it resolves into the mind. So, Brahman creating the world, Brahman entering the world, Brahman becoming the Jivatma, Brahman doing sadhana for uh, all this. You see, if you remember the fourth chapter verse, Brahmarpanam Brahma Havihi Brahmano, that verse, if you remember that, then this an understanding of how one waker becomes the entire dreamer, dream world, and the dream instrument. Similarly, one Brahman becomes this entire Triputi, which we call as the knower, known, and the knowing instrument in the waking state. All this is the explanations in the Upanishads, the descriptions in the universe, in the Upanishads about creation, about Jiva, about Paramatma. Like, for example, Mandukya Upanishad, we say waker, dreamer, sleeper. All these divisions are created for not, it is not an actual division, but they are all figurative. So that my mind is able to expand and then contract. In Mandukya Upanishad, this verse is extremely powerful verse. It's the second chapter verse where it says, there is neither dissolution nor birth of the entire universe. There is no dissolution of a jiva also. All this bondage, freedom, moksha, all this is only for those who are in the Ajnani state. Ajnani state means what? It is a state when you are having ignorance about the Atma. Suppose you know the Atma's nature, then you will say that the whole creation actually is rising from that Atma. And then it resolves, which means what? Creation is mithya. There is no real Srishti, Sthiti, or Layam. It is only an appearance. It is not moksha. It doesn't mean that you have to die and then go to another world. It is not a travel. In Vedanta, moksha means knowing right now while you're listening to the talk itself, I am ever free as the pure consciousness. What about the world? What about the body which I see? What about the talk which I'm listening to? Even if you're listening to these talk on the YouTube, you must understand what whatever we are doing is called as Vyavaharika Satya. In the transactional field, it is real. For a dreamer, the dream is real. For the waker, the waking is real. But at the same time, it is not absolutely real. This waking world is not there in the dream. It is not there in the sleep state. You have to go to that level, the three. That is why it is called as a phenomena. It is called a phenomena means what? It is Maya Shakti. So what remains eternally? It is this consciousness, which I call it as aham. See, because that consciousness is there in this body-mind complex as the I principle, it is possible for us to know this truth. Suppose it was not a part of this body or the universe, then you will never have any moksha as a goal in life. So the entire scriptures, when they teach us about this Atma, it is not that you are moving from one field to another field, but you are only in the same consciousness field, and your experiences are being negated through your mind. Creation is temporarily accepted. Why? Because of the karma of a jiva. See, whenever you try to analyze this creation, why am I facing this sorrow today? No answer. The only answer the Upanishad gives is there is some past karma which is giving you the result, and you just keep on enjoying that result. Whether it is good or bad, it is as per the law of karma. So the aim of Vedanta is not to explain creation, but to negate the creation. That is why we say neti neti. Upanishads use this methodology is a very, very important methodology, which is the fundamental methodology used by all the Upanishads. What is that? Adhyaropa Apavada. I have dealt with this method many times. What does Adhyaropa mean? That means you take the creation and say the creation is there. Srishti is there. Sthiti is there. Layam is there. All this is happening. Creation is there. Maintenance is there. Resolution is there. What this is, when you say it is there means what? This is called as superimposition. I take that consciousness. In that consciousness, all this is happening. So I accept it. Then what happens? Then I do the apavada portion. Because I have to finally say that Brahman alone exists. How will I say this statement? Only when I'm negated the creation. There is a consciousness principle which alone, in its true nature, I have to understand and then claim that as my real nature. Okay. So these are the finer aspects of the teaching of Upanishads. Very fine aspects. You see, like this type of analysis, you never do unless and until you're doing Bhashya. In the ninth chapter, these two verses come, fourth and the fifth verse. This is very often quoted by Shankaracharya. And these two verses, they explain the method of Adhyaropa and Apavada. So in your Gita books, you should mark these two verses. One verse is Adhyaro. What is the verse? Mastani Sarva Bhutani. That means all the universe is there in me. All human beings, all the living beings exist in me. When the Lord says this, Lord Krishna stands for consciousness principle. In Upanishad, we say consciousness. In the Gita, we say it is Lord Krishna. So the whole world in the 10th chapter and the 11th chapter, the Lord shows. You see, in the 9th chapter, he only makes statements like this. Then Krishna wants to know, show me exactly how this is happening. Then Lord Krishna shows in the 10th chapter and says, come, I will show you a movie. I'll show you my glories. See the whole creation. Everything in creation is me only. Any splendor in the creation is me only. That means what? Adhyaropa, superimposition. Then what? In the very next sentence, it's the teaching is, what does the teaching? Nachamastani bhuta. See me without this creation, without this entire universe. Pashyami, see me. Which means what? Lord Krishna wants Arjuna to see that Atma, the pure nature of Lord Krishna. Not with the Krishna body in the universe, but the pure Krishna in Nirguna form. So these two mantras are taken up very, very well in Mandukya Upanishad. About 25 times these two mantras come in Mandukya Upanishad. Everywhere in almost out of those 225 verses, you will find 25 times these two verses come in. They are taken up by Shankaracharya as the example for Adhyaropa and Apavada. And when we meditate on these two verses, we also will be able to reach our real nature. And that pure nature is what the Upanishads wants me to say, Aham Brahma Asmi. Brahma Asmi doesn't mean I am the physical body. It means the consciousness which is aware of this body is called as Brahman. That Brahman is avyavaharyam. Another word from Mandukya. Avyavaharya means what? It doesn't participate. In Brahman, there is no action. Action is all done at the lower level. For example, at the baker's level, there is action happening. But at the pure consciousness level, there is no vyavahara, no transaction because Brahman doesn't have a body. In Brahman, there's no body because everything is resolved. No body, no mind, no sense organs. So if there is no body, no mind, no sense organs, what does it mean? It means ajam, birthless. If that is the nature of consciousness, then it has to be birthless. So, logically speaking, no transaction is possible in the nirvikara swarupa of Atma. So, world is nothing but it is an apparent appearance. It is not factually there. It's a fact, you see, but now these are the facts which we have to think. For example, you can, the world is experienced. While experiencing, you feel, yeah, it's all very real. But where is yesterday gone? Where is 5 years from before? What happened to that world which where we all were very young? We had a very good time. We had very healthy body. We were running around the whole world. What happened to that time, that world? Where is it today? It's gone. So similarly, what we are experiencing now, it will again be gone tomorrow. So experiences are fleeting. That is what is the realization of a jnani. So he just takes the whole life as it comes. That is what I say at the end of, when Q&A comes, I said, don't worry about it. Let life go on. It is a Maya, it is a Maya principle. In Maya Panchakam, this is a very beautiful verse, fifth verse. Now, what does it say? This Maya Shakti can accomplish the impossible in the world. Suddenly you will find people are becoming rich. Suddenly you will find they become poor. How? Maya. Suddenly babies are born. Suddenly, you have, how? For 5, 10 years, people don't have a child, and then suddenly they get a child. Wow. These are all Maya. It is all a Shakti of that pure consciousness. Brahman alone is given 3 names. See, we all fight over, I am a Shiva Bhakta, therefore I should not look at Vishnu. These are all very wrong ideas in the world. Brahma, Shiva, Vishnu, Devi, you take any deity, they're all different forms of that one ultimate God. Forms are many, but forms are used only for worship and upasana, mainly for that. But don't take them as the ultimate. Forms are karyam, means they are effects. What is the karanam? Karanam is only one. That karanam is called as satyam, jnanam, anantam. So Shiva, Vishnu, Devi, these are all only projections of our mind. It is a name and a form. That's all. And this name and form is what is called as Maya. What is the essence? Essence is the consciousness. Anytime when you do this study, always remember when you negate the world, don't negate the world with the consciousness principle. You have to hold on to the consciousness principle and then learn to drop the world. Now the Upasakramanyam topic is over. With reference to this, the message, there is a Rig mantra which summarizes the Anuvakas 1 to 8. So in the earlier cases, for each Anuvaka, there was a Rig mantra. But now there is one mantra which summarizes the entire 8 sections uh, of this Upanishad. Now, here, Shankaracharya, he takes the example of a wall and he says, wall means what? It has got 2 aspects. One is the existence part. We say the wall is, the table is. The easiness is the part of Brahman. What about the desk? The desk or a table or a wall is only a name and form. So name and form we drop. What we hold on to is the existence principle. So Jnani withdraws from the wall. He sees it as a name and form. He sees the whole world as a name and form, as a kosha, as a covering. But what is the adhishtanam? What is the content? He sees the content as Atma. Atma means existence principle. Atma means consciousness principle. So this next Anuvaka, which we are going to see, is a condensed portion of the entire 8 sections. Moksha for a jnani is not only withdrawal, but it is an expansion of his vision. See, for example, in Nirvana Shatkam, we say, "Drop this. I am not the body." It is a withdrawal from the body, withdrawal from the mind, withdrawal from the sense organs. This is one part of it. But suppose you only do this part, it is called as an escapist moksha. You're running away from the world. Okay, which is the Nachamastani Bhutani portion, Apavada portion. But you also have to have the vision of Sarvatma. That is what is important to have the moksha as a goal. Sarva Bhutani, that means the entire world is me, the Atma. Okay, this portion is very, very important. Now, what we are going to study now, eighth section is over. We are entering the ninth section. This verse is very, very popular with Shankaracharya in other Upanishads because he will quote this particular mantra in other Upanishads. Like he quoted, Mandukya Upanishad, that mantra, which I quoted recently. He will quote this particular mantra in other commentaries. Yato vacho nivartante aprapya manasa saha. Very, very important sentence of this. I'll explain to you what it means. Okay, this Upasankramanam topic is over. Now we are getting into the last topic of the Brahmananda Valli, which is the second chapter. There are two verses here. We'll go through both of them. There are about 50, 60 slides for this also. Uh, the, what does this verse? What is the meaning of this verse? Now, we use words to describe the world. So any object in creation, we can describe with the help of a word. Now, when you speak a word, your speech includes the mind as well as the sound. What Upanishad says is to define what is Brahman, it says that where the words cannot reach, that means none of the karma indriyas can be used. That where the mind cannot reach, that means you can't use an antakaranam also to reach Brahman. That is called as Brahman. You have to meditate on this. I'll explain to you the meanings, but then try to see the tricky way in which the Upanishad tries to reveal the truth. Words can reveal something only in the objective world. It cannot reveal the subject consciousness. Subject consciousness is existence principle, consciousness principle. Words, this existence consciousness is the nature. It is not describing Brahman. It is the nature. It is its intrinsic nature. So Brahman is something, pure nature of mine or yours. It is something where there are no attributes. There is no division between subject and object. The definition of Brahman is what? Where the division of subject and object is not there. Where the mind cannot reach. You can't think about Brahman. You can't speak about Brahman. So what was said in the beginning as Satyam Jnanam Anantam is the non-dual pure Atma, in which the world is not there. Remember, always remember this basic statement of defining the world with reference to Brahman or Atma with reference to the body. So, common objects, vastu, substances which have attributes, they can be revealed by words. But something which is attributeless, nirvikalpa, how to differentiate that? Because there is no word you can't use. So, this section mainly focuses on the revelation of that ultimate substance, entity, reality called as Brahman. Shankara comments only in Anuvaka 9, Kutaschaneti, Kadachaneti. These are words used in the fourth Anuvaka. But he explains what does that mean? What does that mean here? Okay. There are 5 conditions required for a word to describe. Word can be used for dravya, for substance. Word can be used for a guna, sattva, rajas guna, or the attributes of like a blue cloth or a red rose. You can use a word red to describe the rose because it is one of the gunas. To describe a dravya, a desk, a stone, a wall, these are all different substances. So if there is a substance, you can describe. If there is a guna, you can describe. If there is a jati, treeness, woodness, goldness, silverness, it is a jati. Coconut trees, it's a jati. All the trees which belong to this jati. Jati means category. Kriya. Suppose there is an action you can describe through words, or if there is a sambandha. For example, daughter, son, mother, son, mother, daughter, father, son. These are all relationship. Through a relationship, you can use words to reveal something. So, Savikalpa Vastu can be described through words, but something which is Nirvikalpa. Nirvikalpa means there is no modification happening in Brahman at all. It is formless in nature, it is ever the same, changeless also. How to know that? That is what is said in this mantra, that mind cannot be used. So don't try to use the mind. You have to ultimately learn to drop the mind. And like a pole vaulter, you have to jump over the pole and then see what is that ultimate reality. Shankaracharya's explanation on these mantras is very beautiful. So he gives you the descriptions that words can reveal only finite objects which have got property, action, relationship, either they form a species. Brahman is not one of the things in creation, but it is the content of creation and it is the adhishtanam of creation. Adhishtanam means it is the substratum. This substratum is called as Paramarthika Satya, absolute reality. Waker is not absolute reality. Dreamer is not absolute reality. Sleeper is not absolute reality. Atma is absolute. Why Waker is not absolute reality? Because Waker goes away in sleep. Why sleeper is not absolute? It is only relative reality. In that time only it is that you are a sleeper. For 8 hours you can be called as a sleeper. Today now you are awake. Can you say that you are a sleeper? No. In waking there is no sleeperhood. The sleeperhood is gone. Avastha is gone. Therefore, that aspect of you related to that condition is gone. That is why in Mandukya they say you're not the waker, dreamer, sleeper, but you are Turiyam Brahma. In Taittiriya, it says you're not the five koshas, but you are the Brahman behind the five koshas. See, these are all very subtle ways in which the ultimate truth is being brought up. Keno Upanishad also has a story where they try to describe Brahman. That means the five elements, Agni, Vayu, the Indra, all these devatas, they went to find out who is this Brahman. But they realized this Brahman is something which is not possible to describe. In Keno Upanishad, we have done Keno Upanishad before. So those who have done with me, you will remember the story. So the, the bottom line is words lose their revealing power when it comes to the Paramatma, the ultimate uh, illuminator of this world. Brahma Sutra, in the first chapter itself, the fourth sutra, it is called as Tattu Samanvaya. See, Brahma Sutra you study after Upanishads. And why do you study that? Because in the Upanishads you have studied Brahman as something in Taittiriya Upanishad. Suddenly you have realized Turiyam in Mandukya Upanishad. In Keno Upanishad, Natatra Suryo Gachati. I mean, it is Shrotrasya Shrotram and all that we have seen. So Brahma Sutra puts all that and says, all this Upanishad, the central object of this study of Upanishad is Brahman. What to be known from all the Upanishad? Brahman. That is the meaning of Tattu Samanvaya. Samanvaya. Samanvaya means what? What is the central? What is the essence behind all the Upanishadic learning, teaching? Brahman is the central topic. So, what type of Brahman are we talking about? Nirvikalpa Brahman. Okay. Now, this portion of these slides is the revision portion. I'm not touching it. You can revise it when you are doing revision at home yourself. Now we are seeing this ninth verse, ninth section, the first word. Yatho vacho vartante aprapya manasa saha anandam brahmano vidvan na viveti kutaschaneti. This is the verse we are seeing. He who knows the Brahman, how does he know the Brahman? He knows it in this fashion. In what fashion? Where words return without reaching. Because Brahman is not an object, it is the very subject. And the words return, not only the words, not only the vak, the tongue, the speech, but it returns also, the mind also returns because the mind cannot contemplate on this. It cannot think about that consciousness for which the source of mind is this consciousness. So you can't use your mind, you can't use the words, but still the Upanishad is able to reveal Brahman. Through this, through this indirect definition, one who knows unobjectified Brahman as the subject, he is the one who becomes fearless. Why does he become fearless? Fear is a thought in the mind. Any fear, at any time, if you have fear, immediately you should know, you should realize it is a thought. In Brahman, there is no mind. If there is no mind, there is no thought. Therefore, we say the knower of Brahman becomes fearless. Because he has known that Brahman is the essence of this entire creation. Brahman is beyond the Triputi. Now, Triputi means what? In the waking state, I am the knower, Ahamkara. consciousness plus the mind is called as the jiva, the knower principle. Now, mind is the instrument. And then what objects are there? The known objects in the world are the constitute the third portion. So, Triputi means there is a knower, there is a known object, and there is a knowing instrument. The same thing happens in dream also. There is a dreamer, there is a dream world of objects, and there is a dream instrument called as the mind in dream. But in sleep, the mind is not there, the sense organs is not there, therefore the world is not there. That means the Triputi is gone in sleep. But what exists beyond that Triputi is the subject matter of Brahman. Words become pramanam, instrument, and I become pramata. See, when I'm using words, I am the knower of the words. I am the knowing principle behind the words. I am the one who is employing speech. But here we are not talking of the knower of the speech, we are talking of the knower of the mind, which is okay. So when we say that in the beginning, the Brahman is defined as Satyam, Jnanam, Ananta. It is non-dual. Non-dual means it is one reality all the time. What about the world? World comes and goes. It is called as Mithya. What appears temporarily, like the dream world. Dream world for all of us is a temporary phenomena. When you rise to the level of pure Atma, the waking world is also becomes a temporary state of appearance and disappearance, like the dream world. So, Brahman is not one of the things in creation, but it is the substratum for the whole creation. It is not an object. It is not like a chair. It is not like a wall, but it is the substratum which holds, like the space. In space, all the world is existing. But where the space exists in consciousness. So, Shankaracharya says, foolish people will employ words to reveal Brahman. Aprapya nivartante means they return without revealing. So, you can't use words to reveal Brahman. For example, you can cut the butter with a knife, but you can't use a knife to cut the stone. So when you use the knife to cut a stone, it will return without cutting the stone. So similarly, when you use words, this is an example. Words, when you try to use, they will not reveal Brahman, but because they don't have the revealing capacity. Uh, Mind here, Shankaracharya says, mind here refers to the thought of the meaning of the word. So that is why he says that thought which reveals the meaning, it cannot function without the illuminator, which is the consciousness. This next topic, which is jnana, knowledge. I will introduce this, but let me see how much I can go. I will take another 10 minutes to explain this Vritti Jnanam and Sakshi Jnanam. See, Vritti Jnanam means our waking state where we are experiencing the world of objects. So, for a knowledge about the world, thoughts are required. So, when you use the Triputi, we get Vritti Jnanam. But what about Sakshi, Atma, Brahman, Sakshi? These are similar terms. Or reality. It is self evident. Because it is a self evident nature of, of the reality, that is why we are saying words cannot describe. Words can describe anything which vrittis can go and envelop the object, then the word can describe. Where words can go, thoughts can go. Where thoughts withdraw, words withdraw. Words used for in the field of sense organs and sense objects. But when it comes to the emotions, how do you know your emotions? That you love somebody, that you are angry, you are having desires. How do you know that? It is all sakshi pratyaksha. It is not known through the sense organs, but it is sakshi, the sakshi jnanam. That is what it is. That is sakshi. Mind is sakshi pratyaksha. But what about sakshi itself? Is it known through something? It cannot be known through something. It is self-revealing. Okay. So that is what Shankaracharya wants to convey in these paragraphs. Word and its meaning, uh, words are employed for anything in the world, but it cannot describe Brahman. Those who want to communicate Brahman through words, they are in the wrong direction. Because Brahman is not an object of cognition, it is free from all attributes. That's what he's saying in this month, in this portion of the commentary. So the person who knows this Brahman, he is free from all papa karmas. He's pure, who is not affected by the desires which come in the mind, because they are all taken as mithya. They are all taken as something which is of a lower nature. Therefore, a jnani doesn't have any attachment to the money or his son. He has no attachment. He uses the word, but he's not attached to the word. That is what Shankaracharya is saying here. The intrinsic nature of this Brahman is Ananda Swarup. Why is it Ananda Swarupa? Because there is no world in it. It is pure bliss itself. Brahman, once you realize that intrinsic nature of yourself, you will be, in Mandukya Upanishad, he says this is the Parama Shanti. There is nothing beyond this. A jnani who knows his Swarupam is ever peaceful. He cannot be disturbed because Atma cannot be disturbed. That is the nature. He doesn't have fear because there is no second thing which can cause fear in Brahman. There's no difference between himself. That see, for example, Atma, Anatma. Atma and Atma, initially we divide into two. Vivek Chudamani and all that, Shankaracharya, even in the Panchakoshas, we said, okay, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, we divided each one of them. But ultimately, when you resolve the five koshas, they are all resolved into consciousness. Similarly, in Mandukya, waker, dreamer, and sleeper, all of them are resolved into that pure Turiyam Brahman. In Brahman, the words cannot be used. Mind can conceive, but Everything in the universe, right from planets to Jupiter to Mars, Uranus, all this entire cosmos, the mind can visualize. But the instrument which is visualizing, the power behind that instrument which is visualizing is the power of Brahman. The Keno Upanishad, Pratibodha Viditam Matam. That you must remember. Before the start of any vritti jnanam, there is the jnanam aham, pratibodha. That pratibodha is called as swarupa jnanam. Even when you wake up in the morning, before you wake up from your bed, first thing what you realize is that Turiyam from where this waking state is evolving. Pratasmarami Slokam, the first verse in the Pratasmarami Slokam talks about this Turiyam. So if you can remember that Turiyam first as soon as you get up, I am that pure consciousness, then what happens? Throughout the day, you live in that pure consciousness at the back of your day-to-day activities. Pashyan, Shrinvan, Jigran, in the fifth mantra, the fifth chapter, Lord Krishna says, all transactions are going on, but you don't lose your center. In consciousness, all transactions going on. Transactions will change. They will bring joy and sorrow, but your mind is always with the Lord. With the Lord means what? With that formless God, which we call it as Brahma. Okay. What is the nature of the Ananda, which is Brahma Ananda, and the nature of Ananda, which is experiential Ananda? Shankaracharya it goes into the depth of this topic. What he says is experiential Ananda is not a contact bond between sense organs and sense objects. Brahmananda is not a contact. It's not contact based, whereas experiential pleasure is contact based. Anytime when the sense organs are in conducive nature with the sense objects, they bring pleasure in the mind. But it is anitya. Because it is related to the mind is constantly changing. So experienceable ananda is is anityam. It is not my real nature. It has gradation, priya, moda, pramoda. It has got divisions in it. For example, you may love your first son more than your second son. It is possible. But these are all experiential pleasure. What about Brahmananda? What Shankaracharya talks about Brahmananda is it is a swarupa. That means it is unconditional. At all times, you are actually that bliss only. But you don't know how to realize, how to discover that bliss. That is why in what after you learn the Upanishads, then it becomes easy for you to be in the world, be with the world at the same time say, I am that pure consciousness, which is your Swarupam, which is Nityananda. Why it is Nityananda? Because it is self-revealing. It is self-revealing, no conditions, unconditional Ananda. And a Jnani or a Vidwan, he knows that Ananda and he claims that as his Swarupa. That is the difference between a Jnani and an Ajnani. See, all these things, they may sound sometimes to be very, very theoretical, but we have to convert this into our experience. whatever we are learning, during the talk itself, you should understand the difference between experiential ananda and your Swarupa ananda. Swarupa ananda is objectless happiness, which is objectless awareness. That is figuratively called as knowing principle, consciousness principle. Okay. See how beautifully Shankaracharya defines some of these things. One who knows this Brahmananda, he never has fear in his life because in Brahman he has understood there is no mind, there is no triputi. Where there is no triputi, that is called as Brahman. Where there is triputi, it is called as the waker, dreamer, sleeper. Where there is no triputi, that is what is called as Brahman. In that, there is no fear. In Brihadaranyaka Upanishad also, it's this particular mantra in the first chapter. What it says is that one who knows that there is only I, the Atma, which is the ultimate reality. In him, fear has already gone. That means anytime you realize this nature of Brahman, you will never have fear in life. Fear of death. Fear of death is what? Death of the body. So it is a thought in your mind. And in that pure consciousness, there is no mind, there is no world, there is no body, which is what you experience when you are sleeping. But you don't know that that is your higher nature. That is where your ignorance has to go. Self ignorance is called as Mula Vidya. Mula Vidya means your ignorance about your higher nature, which is there. You have to, that covering, you have to remove it. How do I remove the covering? Employ the words of the Upanishads. So, when there are no other things in this universe, no other object which is there, there is no division. Where there is no division, there is no fear. And when the fear is gone, then self-ignorance is gone. Because what caused fear is this ignorance about our higher nature. Okay. That is what he is trying to, Shankaracharya is trying to explain in all these verses. Why there is no fear for a jnani? This is a very important section. We will cover it up next week. I will start with this verse, this page 1238, and this this portion we will expand on it next week. Okay, so this will be the last section we are dealing with. In which there are two mantras. We will cover up both this maybe in 2-3 sessions, and then we'll see. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachade Purnasya Purnamadhaya Purnameva Vasishyade. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om. I'll see the chat box if there are any questions. There's one question, I'll answer that. Okay, very nice question by Manikandan. He is asking, while we are experiencing this world of plurality and doing all our transactions, can we experience this Brahmananda, or is it only when we drop this Tripoti, we can experience this Brahma Ananda? Very, very deep question. The answer to this is, see, Brahma Ananda is my Swarupam. What do you call it as Swarupam? Swarupam is something which you can never drop. That means it is always there with you. Which means what? The moment I come to know that Brahmananda, which is my Swarupam, which is intrinsic its nature, like consciousness is my intrinsic nature. Now, can I ever lose this consciousness? No. Can I ever lose this existence principle? No. So the answer to your question is you can never lose your Brahmananda, but you can lose your Vishaya Ananda. Brahmananda is like the sunlight which is there in the wall. Then there is a small mirror by which you throw the reflection on the wall. So in the patch of sunlight where you're using the mind, where you're using the mirror, there is a patch in the wall. Now in that patch also the background there is a overall reflection of sunlight. So always remember that whenever we experience Ananda in the world, always Brahmananda is at the back. So answer to your question is we never lose our Brahmananda because it is our Swarupa. We cannot lose it. It is always there. Only thing is I don't know. See, what happens through our study of Upanishads is the mind gets a facility after repeated listening again and again. The mind gets the facility. It gets the power to drop the anatma portion and remain as atma. So this is where the difference lies. Good question, but it's you have to understand it is intrinsic nature. So the word intrinsic means you can never lose it. I am conscious. Is there any time or beyond time where you can say you're not conscious? No. Consciousness of the objects, they will come and go. But consciousness per se will never come and go. It is the substrat. Similarly, existence. I exist. So nobody has a doubt that he is existing or she is existing because it is the Swarupam. So the moment you're through the Vedanta, what we understand is the real nature of our essence. What is my essence? My essence is this pure Ananda, but you should also know why is that Ananda bliss always there? Because the word is not there in Brahman. That aspect of the teaching you should remember. In my higher nature, which is my intrinsic nature, there is no body mind. There is no body mind is a temporary appearing and disappearing phenomena in this world. I am the pure consciousness is the ultimate teaching. In that pure consciousness only, the world is coming and going. I repeat this again and again because it's very subtle uh, teaching, very, very subtle teaching of the Vedanta. These are the very last level, the finer Vedanta. And all this comes very beautifully when you study the Upanishad Bhashyam. It is the Bhashyam, when you keep studying the Bhashyam, see, just keep studying the Bhashyam, slowly your mind will become more and more and subtle, and then it will grasp the nature of that Atma. I may tell you now that objectless awareness is your real nature. This is what Gaudapada says in Mandukya Upanishad. What is your real nature? Objectless awareness. That means awareness is there, but there are no objects. which is what is describing your sleep state where awareness is there, no objects are there. That awareness is your real nature. Awareness never leaves you. It is the adhishtanam. If you know that awareness as your real nature, and you must claim it. See, in the Upanishadic talks, many times I reveal the truth. You also can grasp the truth, but you are not able to hold the truth all the time because it just comes. The glimpse of Brahman comes, glimpse of that Atma. For example, I just said objectless awareness. All of you would have got something in your mind, but you're not able to hold it because the mind, the thoughts are running. The moment that that objectless awareness, the thought, that idea comes into your mind, what happens? Your mind becomes blank for some time. Suddenly you become blank, but then you can't hold on to that. Holding on to that requires purity of the mind, and that is what is called as shama, disciplining the mind. Whenever the mind becomes disobedient to you, immediately you have to withdraw, you have to pull it back. Making your mind listen to you is called as shama. Shama means mind control. When you have mind control, this Atma Jnana will stick with you. It will remain as something which you know all the time. Good, very good question, Manikanna. Anybody else has a question? Shanmugam is going to unmute all. You can raise your hand, then I know that you would like to have a question. Good. Thank you, Manikanna.
Thank you, Secretary. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, if there are no questions, then I will close for the day. Bye, Balo. You have a question? Or you're saying bye?
3-4 है.
Okay. ठीक है. Okay.
First one is let's see here. How does a dream take place? Is it in the sleep state, or is it in the dream, or the dream
Yeah.
dreamer?
Okay. Your question is about dream. There is one Upanishad. It is called as Prashno Upanishad. Prashno Upanishad is the title of the Upanishad. In that Upanishad, there is the fourth chapter which deals with your question. The whole chapter of 11 verses are there regarding dream. Okay. Now, how does where is this? How dream takes place? What do we experience in dream? And all the details of that are given in that fourth chapter, Prashno Upanishad, which I will be taking after some time. And there is a very beautiful Bhashyam of Shankaracharya, but I will answer your question. See, dream, first of all, you should understand, dream happens when I am ignorant about the waker. First lesson about dream. How does dream take place? Dream takes place because of the ignorance of the waker. That means what happens? Your mind, your sense organs have gone to sleep. That because your sense organs have gone to sleep, you don't know your body. You can't see your body. Your eyes cannot see the body. Their sense organs are sleeping. Okay. So in a condition, now this is a condition of yours. It is everybody has this condition. Now, in that condition of the sleep, that is what we called as sleep. What is sleep? Sleep means it is I am there, but I don't know I am the waker. That is what we call it as a sleep condition. In the sleep, in the deep sleep, there is neither the sense organs are working, neither the mind is working. This is what is sleep. Waking is mind is working, sense organs are working. You are seeing the sense objects outside also. Okay. Now, the next lesson about dream. Dream is a projection of whatever you as the mind has experienced in the waking state in this life or previous lives. We don't know which life that waking state mind has got the impressions. So the mind is an instrument. Mind is a instrument which registers the experiences. Suppose you have, you experience so many things. You got married, you had children, the children got married, you have grandchildren. All these are experiences of the waking state. But in the waking state, what happens? The mind is such a beautiful instrument. It can register the, it can register, it can, it can register all those experiences, and it can, and it, that is what we call it as vasanas. Mind registers the experiences, but it doesn't. Okay, so this is the aspect of the mind. What is the mind? Mind is an instrument. In the dream, it projects the experiences again. For example, you have a CD. In a CD, you record something. From the waking state, you cannot, the CD will not produce something which it has not recorded. So similarly, your mind. That is why this is a proof that your mind is going from birth to birth. Dream is an example, is a proof to say that your mind continues from birth to birth. Because there are certain impressions in the dream which you have never experienced in this life. Some persons you have never met in this life, but you get in the dream.
Yeah.
Okay. So the dream is something, it is a projection of the vasanas which are there in the mind or karana sharira. Whatever comes in the dream world is nothing but it is a projection of the vasana oriented world. Okay, vasanas which are there. That is why we say that mind's creation of the dream is different than the waking state. In the waking state, what happens? You are experiencing the panchabhutas, the objects which are there in the world, you are experiencing them. But that is not being experienced in a dream. Dream is not, is a projection of the thoughts in your mind. The vasanas are expressing as thoughts. The entire dream world is nothing but thoughts. It is nothing but your mind. But when do you know this? You know this only when you wake up. But in the dream, what happens? You don't know that you're dreaming. In the dream, it is as good as you're waking and experiencing.
It's only when you wake up you realize that you have dreams.
Correct. When you wake up, then you say, oh, I was a dreamer. That means my mind was, whole world was nothing but my mind. This is another lesson of the dream.
But
Another,
secondly,
okay, you want one more lesson? Okay, let me, you ask me the question. Yeah, you have question.
I mean, does the dream is trying to tell you something? They say, of your past life or your.
No, even if it tells you about the past life, what you should say, because you're a student of Vedanta, you should be very, very clear and say dream is mithya. Mithya means what? It appeared to you yesterday night. It will not appear to you tomorrow again. But even if it appears to you again tomorrow, because for some people, dreams come again and again.
It's not the same.
May not be same. Some people tell me that they get the same dream again and again. There are experiences which come again and again in dream. But what I want to tell you is, in Prashno Upanishad, Shankaracharya beautifully explains this concept of dream, and the lesson you should learn is dream is mithya. It is an experience for some time. It is not a reality.
Not the reality.
It is not real because you know it is gone. Na? Okay. Yesterday, that tiger which was chasing you in the dream, and then you woke up suddenly and say, "Oh, I'm in my bed in Singapore." So similarly, from your waking, through this jnanam of Upanishad, you come to the knowledge of pure Atma. I am the Atma. In that Atma, there is nothing, but I am there. So then what happens? This entire waking is like a dream for you. It came. You see, 70 years of one's life is nothing when you compare yourself as timeless. Suppose you say, I am Atma, but Atma is what? In which there is no time. You are ever there. So compared when you stand on the legs of Atma, then what happens? This waking is also a Triputi only. Triputi means knower, known, and knowing instrument. In the dream also, there was a knower, knowing, and instrument. Three things. So waking and dream are all Triputis which come and go. Why do they come? Because of the vasanas. Even in waking, for example, your thoughts are coming. I have to attend the class today, but it is a vasana. It is a impression which you are gathering again. Okay. Dream
So
is
it's
something which I can talk for 20 hours. So I'm just
no,
giving you because
I
it's a
mean,
very big topic.
because some people say that is you sometimes overeating when you are sleeping. Before sleep, you take too much food or something like that. Then you
Okay,
get
that
it.
is, yeah, you take it as a joke. I said tomorrow don't eat, but you'll still dream.
Okay. I
Okay,
think one
okay,
more
bye bye.
question.
Thank you.
As you were saying just now, one who knows Brahman is fearless, right?
Yes. Because
Hmm?
there is no, in Brahman, there is no thought.
Yeah.
Fear is a thought in your mind. It is like a thought which comes and flashes. I am afraid of death. It's a thought. It is not a reality outside because your body dies. You don't die. Your consciousness is ever there, never leaves you. Remember this fact, it is a fact of life. It is something which you should know. Ultimately, when you study Vedanta with so many topics and all that, one thing you should remember, I am of the nature of consciousness. Eternally, this consciousness is changeless. It is birthless. It is deathless. Therefore, I am fearless.
So hum brahmasmi.
Correct. That's it.
Shivoham, Shivoham.
Yes. You don't forget Shivoham part of it, of the Nirvana Shakti. Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
Shanta, you have a question?
Sort of. I'm not sure. When I was when we were talking about this upasankramam,
Yeah.
and at the same time, after when we went to this om or any sound is because of the mind. I mean, because the mind can hear it, or
Yes, mind can
because
hear.
yeah,
Yes,
the
mind
sound
can
comes out
see,
of your
mind can
mouth
hear,
here,
mind can
mind
taste.
can say,
Yes,
or yeah.
yes, yes,
So
yes.
basically all this, or even when we say aham, it's actually the sound. When we say that, it is registered by the mind, interpreted by the mind, and projected by the mind to us.
Correct. So
Is
you
that,
drop
yeah?
that mind. You drop that
Yeah,
mind, and whatever is the silence, you hold on to it.
hold on to it. Yeah, but now my question is, when we know that anything which we utter is again repeated to the mind, goes to the mind, intellect analyzes and tells us this is what it is. Of course, it happens in absolutely instantaneously. But then when we start thinking about upasankramam, that is the knowledge of, I mean, taking the Shankaracharya's option, not the other one, where jnanam will give you that, that knowledge that you are Brahman, right? Now, that is also interpreted by the mind. So
Yeah,
my question, or rather what I'm trying to understand is that, but Brahman is not Vachartha,
yeah.
right?
It is
It is
Lakshartha.
Lakshartha. Yeah,
Hmm.
Lakshartha. So how would Lakshartha be conceptualized by the mind, which cannot do uh, without the Brahman? I'm just that it is like a
Yeah.
chicken and an egg situation for me,
No, you
where
try to use that example of pole vaulter. He has gone
hmm,
up to the pole. He has to drop the pole and go to the other side.
hmm,
So you have to use the mind till you reach that level of
hmm,
reaching an area where there is no sound.
hmm,
That soundless silence is called as
hmm,
Brahman.
hmm.
But you have to use the sound of Om, without
Hmm.
which you don't have a
Reach
glimpse
there.
of that soundless Om, which is there,
Yeah.
which
Hmm.
is silence. So silence is
Okay.
revealed by what? It is revealed by sound Om.
Hmm.
It exists, but does
Again,
the
it becomes like a neti thing
does the
because
sound?
it is
Yeah,
there. Yeah.
does the
Y-
sound Om reveal it? Not the
Hmm.
sound, because sound is
No.
heard by the mind. But what
Hmm.
is not heard by the mind, which is beyond the mind, is this
Hmm.
pure consciousness, which is Brahman. Because
Hmm.
your mind has to just get that facility to drop that mind itself.
Hmm.
And that is why Shankaracharya says that unless until you have mano nigraha means you have where the mind has the ability to stop thinking
Hmm.
about something.
Hmm.
So you get hundreds of thoughts. But then as Ajnani, we all get carried away with our thoughts, and the mind rules us. Not that
Hmm.
we are in control of thoughts, the thoughts are in control of us.
Hmm.
Normally, that is how we all start as seekers. So, what we have to understand is use the mind to understand that pure nature, and then get
Hmm.
the mind.
Okay.
Use the mind. You cannot,
Hmm.
without the mind, you cannot go up to the level of consciousness, because, see, Sakshi, when you say I
Hmm.
am Sakshi, a thought is required.
Hmm.
Thought, Sakshi, just listen to these two words. Sakshi illumines the thought, thought manifests Sakshi.
Hmm.
These are the two words which Shankaracharya uses to describe how a thought reveals it. We don't say it reveals, it manifests.
Hmm.
Whereas Sakshi is an illuminator. Atma is an illuminator of a thought, but
Hmm.
without a thought, I can never know the
Reveal.
existence of
Yeah.
Sakshi.
Yeah, that is very, very beautiful because it just sort of opened that window because I felt at this minute that when you explain that the thought, it's illuminated in the mind by the Sakshi, and only through that only we actually understand the Sakshi, that there is
Correct.
Sakshi is there.
Yes,
So
that's
okay,
right.
so that level, that bit we have to really hold on to, and that,
Yes,
you know, which is beyond the illuminator rather than the illumined.
correct. The illumined manifests the
Mm,
illuminator.
illuminator, yeah, because with unless you know something is illumined, you don't know that there is a illuminator.
That's correct. See, that is
Yeah.
why again, this is at the level of only Sakshi and
Yeah,
Sakshya,
yeah, because
but
then
there
you
is
go,
another
yeah,
level
but
where once you have
just, yeah,
known, that Sakshi, you can say Sakshi alone
also
exists.
exist. Yeah, yeah,
Beautiful. This is a very,
yeah.
very, this thought process. See, these are the areas where Shankaracharya excels, He takes your
Mm,
mind and he makes your mind glide into that Atma. That's all.
mm,
And he drops you there, finished, and says, now you realize
yeah,
that's it.
realize, yeah. No, yesterday, I just want to share, yesterday I was in the temple and there was a father and the child, and the child was getting distracted as usual. So the father had a very small pocket book, which, pocket diary type book, where he had pictures, and which said ball, apple, whatever. And then he started telling the child, showing the picture. And it just struck me. I was looking at it and I'm thinking, he's actually, you know, telling the sounds and then making him think that that sound reflects to the apple, or that sound is means when you go to see this.
Yeah,
And we are being trained right from when we
yeah,
are born. It
that's correct.
felt like that
Yeah.
we are I wish when we were born we were not being taught all this. We would have actually realized ourselves that
Anyway,
we are Atma.
language is required ultimately to learn
Yeah,
this
because we
higher
have to
higher
learn the
reality.
Upanishads. But
Yeah.
yeah, but that was quite, that is why I felt that the Adhishtanam of Omkara and the Aura Sakshi
Mm.
just does take you to that understanding level that everything can be resolved and nothing is actually real.
Correct. You see, the resolution, very, very important concept in Vedanta is the resolution part, which is
Mm,
Upasamkramanya. That
mm.
ultimately Annamaya results in Pranamaya, Pranamaya results into Manomaya,
Manomaya,
and
Manomaya results
Manomaya
in
again goes to
say
Vijnanamaya, Vijnanamaya
Vijnanamaya,
goes to Anandamaya, Anandamaya goes to Brahman.
Brahman.
Similarly, in Mandukya, the waker is absorbed in the dreamer. The dreamer, no, the physical body, gross body is absorbed by the subtle body. Subtle body is absorbed by the causal body.
Mm,
Similarly, at the prapancha levels also, there is a prapancha which is very gross. But then the cause of that is the subtle prapancha, subtle prapancha, the five elements. Again, the subtle five elements, there is a cause for that, and that is the antaryam. But where do all this they resolve? They all resolve into Turiya Atma.
mm,
See, like in Taittriya Upanishad, Shankaracharya says this Upasamkramanyam happens in Brahman. The five Panchakoshas and the world which are attached to the Panchakoshas, they're all the resolution ground is Brahman. Brahman is the Karanam from where the entire Akasha has come, Vayu has come, Agni has come, Prithvi has come. Similarly, Waker, dreamers, all these world which we say is ultimately reduced as Nama and Rupa. What lies behind the Nama Rupa is this Adhishthana,
is
it
Adhishtanam.
is
Yeah.
consciousness. So holding on to Adhishtanam again and again, and very important lesson is this consciousness is there. That is the substratum.
Mm,
The world which comes and goes, it is not independent. It is dependent on this consciousness. That is why you can drop the world and say, I am consciousness. You see,
Yeah.
this aspect of the teaching, it is a very tricky, it's a very, very final teaching. This comes out very beautifully in the second, third chapter of Mandukya Upanishad. But I'm just trying to train you for that, because
Yeah.
you should be able to say that while seeing this world itself, I am able to know that Brahman.
Mm.
Because this world is mithya.
Mm.
It exists, it appears, but it is gone. Where does it go?
Mm.
It goes in that pure consciousness existence. Once you know this principle, you have attained moksha.
Mm.
That the world exists in Atma, it resolves into Atma, it comes out of. I see the world. I see our experience is I am always in the present seeing something. You never feel that you've gone to sleep and you've gone to
Yeah.
dream. While you're waking, you are always waking.
Mm.
Yesterday also, even your waking state was there. You were in the wakeful state. You experienced similar things in this world. See, the waking state, it appears as if it is a continuous experience.
Mm.
But in this continuous experience, there is a substance. There is a that objectless awareness is there. In that objectless awareness only, this is all, we can see all the divisions, we can see all the plurality, we can experience all this, the world, the beautiful world which is Ishvara's creation. Okay, Shanta, did I
Okay.
answer your question? Anything else?
Yes, yes. Uh, I don't know whether you have the time, but it's just one more thing I'll just mention that when when you said that with time everything is flowing, all right? Like today's day, what we heard will not come again. It is
Correct, it's
gone.
gone.
Where
Last
is
one
it
hour,
gone?
you heard
Yeah, it's
something.
gone. Very.
It's already gone. So
I just want to know now. That was one of the things you mentioned in the lecture as well. And I was thinking, where does it go?
yeah,
I don't know.
it goes into consciousness. See, that is what we don't understand. Where did it go? Yesterday, you had a very good day. You went out, you had a fantastic day with your children, this, that. No, you may have done lots of beautiful things. You said you went to a temple, you saw things. But today, where is that?
Yeah,
It's all that
it's not there.
experience is gone.
Yeah.
So the world we are experiencing is fleeting.
Mm.
Your 16 years, 14 years, if you look back, it is just gone as if it was like a 1 year experience for you.
Oh,
Last
yeah.
14 years, it just vanished, because
Yeah,
you
it's something which
always,
I have to think because I just find it now, when you mentioned, I was just thinking, yeah, the day passes and tomorrow comes and it passes and we don't know where it is, but all we know is it creates thoughts and it remains in your mind.
correct.
Nothing else is happening
Yes.
because you
See
can't,
that?
all you can play it is in your mind with your
Yeah.
memories, but beyond that, nothing is there.
See, the moment you become more conscious about this Atma, you will
Mm.
realize that it is only the mind which is projecting thoughts, and you are
Mm.
experiencer of those thoughts, and that experience of those thoughts remains as memory for you, as if the day has gone away,
Gone
life
away.
has gone, it is just a few memories which you have
Yeah.
of those experiences. You call it as life.
Mm.
The day you had your PhD, it's a memory today. That's all. You
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
So similarly, you have so many successes in life, and those are all only memories. Ultimately, our experiences are only in the form of thoughts.
Thoughts.
Nothing. All our experiences are nothing but thoughts which come into our mind, which are illumined by Sakshi, which are illumined by
Mm.
Atma, and that makes it a living experience.
Mm.
There are two
Yeah.
things which happen. One is the world which is coming through the sense organs, that is one part.
Mm.
And the second is
Mm.
your thoughts which are bubbling inside. and you are seeing them as if you're seeing a movie,
Mhm.
it is like a movie which you're seeing inside, sitting inside. That is how the life is.
Yeah, it looks so. I mean, now thinking about it, it's so unreal. We live in this world and we have all these emotions, but it's actually so unreal.
It's so unreal.
We're
Yes. You see,
walking towards. I mean, I feel sometimes I'm walking towards this unreal world, and I don't
but
know.
no, you see,
I mean,
what Shankaracharya says is, you once you know it is an unreal world, you get
yeah,
through it. That's what it says. Just let the world pass, let the prarabdha come and give you some
yeah,
experiences. But then you enjoy. You're not affected by it because you are Atma.
yeah, mm, yeah. Very beautiful.
Okay.
I think
Thank you.
it's taking us
Yeah.
to
For
a
those
good.
I
Yeah.
talk tomorrow, I still have a talk tomorrow. Earlier, I had cancelled it because I was going out somewhere. But tomorrow, the talk is there on Mandukya.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you. Good night.
Thank you. Dhanyavad.
So
Bye-bye.
tomorrow, the
Hey,
Sunday.
Mr. Shekhar.
Yes, Jacqueline, you have a question.
Yes, no. Somebody wanted to say something before. I say later.
Okay. No problem. Yeah. Bye tomorrow, there is a talk on Mandukya.
So there is, I mean, the talk is on tomorrow,
Yeah, the
Sunday.
talk is on. Yes, earlier I had cancelled it. Now, tomorrow the talk is there. Yes.
Oh, okay. I just want to confirm it. Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Shekhar,
Yeah,
in
Jacqueline.
the arena that you are talking about scripture from Shankaracharya, from Maharishi, from Nigarata, from everybody. So what is Holy Spirit? Holy Spirit.
Yeah, Holy Spirit means it is consciousness.
Oh, Holy Spirit is consciousness and it's
Yes,
in everybody.
yes, that's correct. It is holy because it is never affected by anything in creation. It is holy. It's
Okay.
holy means it is spiritual in nature. It never gets affected by anything in creation. Creation comes and goes. That means, um, for example, nothing happens to the sun when all the transactions are happening in the world, right?
Yeah.
So similarly, consciousness is my real nature. I am the eliminating principle for this body. I am the eliminating principle for this mind. Body and mind, when they interact with the world, they give me experiences.
Okay.
Okay. But if don't get lost in the experiences, don't say I am suffering, say I am experiencing a mind which is suffering or a mind which is joyful.
Okay.
Because mind has both these conditions. Sometimes it is joyful, sometimes it is sorrowful.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
whenever the mind is sorrowful, don't get dejected. Just take a step back and say, I am watching my mind. Mind is sorrowful for some reason. The
Okay.
outside circumstances can be very bad. Suppose you have a flood, you have some problems at home, somebody is not well, somebody is not behaving properly. Your mind is reacting.
Mm-hmm.
You can stop the mind reacting to the situations outside because that is the law of your body and mind.
Okay.
Okay,
Okay.
but behind them there is this holy spiritual essence,
Okay. So
which
that
is
means
called as consciousness.
okay. Okay. So in the what you I mean I'm just asking. So for my understanding, Holy Spirit is equal to consciousness, is equal to existence, is equal to Brahman, right?
Yes.
Okay. So um so let's say for another aspect, people that go to temple, Hinduism, do they say that Holy Spirit also, or do they say Holy Spirit is equal to soul?
No. See, you're getting confused between Christianity and Hinduism.
Yes, Mr. Shekhar.
Yeah, don't get
No, I
confused
just
between Christianity when they use certain terminologies. Those are very, very different than what Hinduism defines as God, as they are two different uh, theologic systems,
Yeah. Okay.
So
No, because
don't confuse the Holy Spirit of the Christian philosophy is very different.
but
You can
ideally it's the same.
ultimately you can say that Holy Spirit, which they call it as Jesus. Jesus is just like a name and a form. You see, like
Yeah.
I say there is Shiva, there is Rama, there is Devi. For you it is Jesus.
Yes.
For a Muslim, it will be Allah. It is only name and form.
Yeah. So not ideally, let's say from the creator perspective for billions of years, okay? In fact, I just learned we are billions of years old, okay? True or not, I don't know. So what I'm just saying that ideally, in Christianity, in Allah, in Buddhism, in Hinduism, there is this consciousness that makes us alive every day. It doesn't matter which religion you are. So it is in Christianity, they call Holy Spirit. But in Vedanta, that I learned from you, I mean, because of scripture for how many thousand years ago, so it is equal to consciousness, right?
Yes.
Okay, got it. Now, because
Okay,
I find
thank you.
I find it fascinating because they say Holy Spirit is there. Sometimes it's there and sometimes it's not there. So I'm like, but of course I wouldn't rebut, because different people think differently as a human
Yes.
being. Yeah.
Good. I'm glad you're able to apply Vedanta. Very good.
Okay, appreciate.
Thank you, Jacqueline. Thank you. Namaste.
Namaste.
And
Thank you.
Namaste.
thank you.
Hari Om.
Namaste. Hari Om.
Hello.